Welcome back to another episode of the MMA Pulse podcast, hosted by myself, Alex Honan, and Kyle Carpenter. So today we're going to go over what just occurred right last night, which was UFC 304 in England. I'll just flat out and start where I'm at now about it. The early prelims and the prelims carried the card. And then it kind of went downhill from there, I would say, at least for some of those fans there. But what was your overall thoughts of the card?
I thought it was a good card up until the main event. I was entertained by almost every fight.
Fair take.
Up until the main event. We'll give our thoughts on the individual fights in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, listen, even though there was 7 straight, decisions and whatnot, I thought they were entertaining fights. There was stuff going on in each. There was cuts. There was hematomas, a lot of injuries. But yeah, the main event really disappointed.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of killed the entire momentum of the night. I feel like it almost overshadowed how entertaining the early prelims were and the prelims, because the first, besides the opening fight of the night, the next few fights, I think, all had stoppages, or they were just kind of like absolute wars. So, why don't we jump into the first fight that we feel that we should talk about, which was on the early prelims, and that was Mick Parkin getting a round 1 knockout on Lucas Bresky, which, there's always a lot of hype behind Mick Parkin. He was 9-0 going into this fight, and he's looked great in every fight, like, prior to that. So I think it was another solid win for him, and the heavyweight division has another younger, newer English fighter who's on the rise, I think. What are your takes on that one?
I mean, yeah, they both look good to me. They had some good exchanges there. The storyline going in was, can Mick Parkin get a finish? Because he was on a decision train. I think he was 3-0 in the UFC or something like that with all decisions. And we really just wanted to see a finish from him. And he was able to get it towards the end of the first round, which was big for him. Moving forward, I think they'll give him similar matchups, stuff like that, where he could build some finishes, in a row and stuff like that. And then we'll see him, if he keeps winning in a ranked opponent. But yeah, they got a good prospect over there in the heavyweight division out of England.
Yeah. I agree. I think that, obviously he's not ready for a rank. He definitely needs a few more fights under his belt. That was definitely a good way to break that streak of only decisions in the UFC so far. They definitely both were catching each other. I was getting to a point where I was thinking because he got clipped a bunch of times. I think there was like uppercuts that were like clipping him left and right. But Bresky did look good. And then he got wobbled and he just went chicken legs and it got finished from there. So great win for Mick Parkin. And looking forward to see what he does next. Next one, which was the last fight on the early prelims, Oban Elliott gets the win over Preston Parsons, who Preston Parsons was the favorite going into this fight. Not by much, but he was the favorite. And I was impressed with Oban Elliott. It seemed like the broadcasting team he seemed great to me.
Yeah. The storyline going in was Preston Parsons wrestling, and that's why he was the favorite, because Oban Elliott in the past hasn't been great at takedown defense and getting up off the ground. But he did an outstanding job in his fight last night. I think he stuffed every takedown. I don't think he was taken down once. Maybe one time he was taken down, but he got up right afterwards. Striking was crisp. He wasn't really putting himself into harm's way.
Yeah.
In the striking, I would have liked to see him take a little bit more risk on the feet because I thought he could have got the finish.
Mm-hmm.
He was much crisper there, but he was aware of the takedown, and that's why he didn't do it. And it paid out for him. He won a unanimous decision pretty easily.
Yeah, I think another solid win for him. I don't really have too much to say about that. I just knew that he was someone that everyone was kind of keeping an eye on because weren't sure, because he won his debut, I do believe, and so this was another solid win for him. Get him a little bit on a bit of a streak going forward. But yeah, I don't have too much to say about that one. I just thought it was an impressive win for him as a whole. Next, one fight that I would say everyone really hated was Muhammad Mokaev and Manel Kopp, which got moved again from the early, which was on the early prelims after being removed from the main card, then bumped up to the first fight on the prelims. And you know, they get into the octagon and they start trying to fight before the fight starts, and then the second that bell rang, it was just nothing, no movement, no one throwing. They were keeping distance the whole time. It was like, where did all that animosity and build up these, like, the last few weeks and this and that? It's like you fight in the hotel, you try to fight on the stage, you try to fight in the octagon before the fight starts, and then when the fight starts, you don't want to fight anymore. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm at a loss for words. We'll get to like the other news surrounding that fight after, but what were your thoughts on it?
It was awful. It was terrible. Makayev said that the UFC told him, "Don't shoot for takedowns, or not, or we're not resigning you." I don't know what he was thinking, because honestly, if he's not winning that fight on the feet, I thought the fight was going to be a little bit more, joyful to watch towards the end of the first round there, going into the second, because Cobb started to open up. But once
Yeah.
his toe broke, it was kind of he couldn't really walk on it. It was pretty clear. He would throw a combination and start like hobbling off. So once that happened, Kopp wasn't really able to throw that much. Makayev was just barely throwing any punches. He threw like a couple of head kicks that landed, but they like had no power behind them at all. It's like kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
slap to the face. There was nothing behind them. Um, Makayev got lucky that he got the win, to be honest with you, because that there should have been a point taken in that second round. Like, he legit pulled down Makayev's pants, or not, sorry, Kopp's pants,
Yeah.
and it was right there. Like, I don't know what Beltran was doing. He should have taken a point right there. And two of the three judges had it 29-28, which I thought it was, because I thought Kopp won the first round with the flurry at the
Yeah.
end, because
Yeah.
there wasn't really much else going on. So I thought there should have been a point taken in the second round. So I thought it should have been 28-28,
Yeah, I agree with
across
that.
the board. Even if it was 28-28 for two judges and 20, what would that have been, 29-27 or whatever for the other one, it still would have been a majority draw.
Yeah.
So Makayev is lucky he got the win. And yeah, it was a disappointing fight, because they're trying to fight, but how are you going to try to fight before the fight starts, and then when the fight starts, you don't want to fight? Like, I really don't understand that at all, especially for two like explosive fighters. Like, Makayev is explosive to get to the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and Kopp is explosive in getting knockouts, stuff like that, and we just saw nothing from either of them. And then
Yeah.
after the fight, they hugged it out, which is I guess that's good to see, right? But like, you just don't
Yeah.
expect, like, it kind of seems like it was fake animosity, which is crazy, because they fought each other before the fight this week. Like, Makayev punched him before
Yeah.
the fight this week, and then after the fight, like, they're hugging. Like, I don't really understand that.
Yeah. I don't know if Kopp really wanted to. Mokaev walked over to him and was kind of like, yeah. But then he did pull him back for a
Yeah.
second after, and I was
Mhm.
like, okay, maybe it is kind of mutual.
Yeah.
Yeah, my take on it was I gave Kopp round one just because that flurry at the end, because it's like, you gotta judge the fight. You would judge the round off of damage and this and that, and
Mhm.
Mokaev just like walking Kopp down a little bit, but Kopp's the only one who actually landed really. I mean, he only threw like 7 or 8 strikes that entire round. I think
It
he
was
had
like 7 strikes to 9.
I think he had like 2 strikes thrown within like the first 3.5 to 4 minutes of that round. And but I also think
Yeah.
he was, every fight sometimes has that first round where it kind of looks like they're trying to get the reads on each other a little bit, which is what I kind
Mhm.
of thought was happening. And then especially when Manel Kopp like all of a sudden like turned it up at the very end of the round, it was like, okay, round 2 we're going to see a complete momentum switch, and we're going to see Kopp maybe start to walk him down. And then that toe injury happened, and I mean, that's really hard. A big toe, and you could see he was holding that whole part of his foot up in the air the entire fight.
Yeah.
Which you can't really bounce, you can't really move laterally. It makes it hard. He kept trying to like switch his stance naturally, and he would immediately have to switch back because he couldn't put the weight on the back on that foot in the back, so he had to keep it in the front. But then Mokaev kind of abandoned those front kicks a little bit after he hurt the foot, which I was kind of like, as bad as it like sounds, it's like, I'm gonna go after the injury. It's like I'm gonna get
Yeah.
the fight to have to stop. And
I
Mokaev
was
just
saying
kind of
that
still
during the
backed
fight.
up off of
I
it. He
was
didn't
saying.
really pressure too much. I was very curious
Mhm.
about. I thought that Kopp actually looked very well still defending the takedowns, even with the, I'm sure it was hurting having to sprawl every single time Mokaev shot. But
Yeah.
one thing I have to say
Oh,
is that
100%.
so as we all now know, Mokaev is no longer a part of the UFC after this fight. He was cut, and for him, a little bit of advice probably would be when you get hit once or twice. I think you need to not immediately as you get clipped shoot for a takedown always into it because it almost looks like he gets dropped when he shoots for those because he kind of like drops to his knees to go for a double leg and it almost looks like he gets dropped for a second, like at least from the camera angles we get to see on TV. I don't think it's always a good look. It happened in his last fight too against Alex Perez. Like every time Alex Perez like landed something, he would kind of like drop to the floor, and it was like a desperation shoot. Like that's how I felt. I
Yeah.
feel a lot about his takedowns. Is they're desperation takedowns. He only does it when he knows he's losing on the feet. Which if you get that takedown, but they do nothing with him, they stand up. It's like I'm sorry, how are you scoring that on behalf of him?
Yeah.
I do think that the foot injury really screwed Kop's game plan up. And I think you could
Hmm.
see that on his face after the fight. He was like he looked like he lost that one. He was not happy with that fight. Um I guess you can just live and learn and move on from there. I don't
Yeah.
think I'm assuming Kop's probably going to keep his rank at number 8. Unless Mokaev being removed from the rankings bumps him up like a spot, but I don't know what they're gonna
Yeah.
do with that. But is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to say on
I
that?
think. Yeah. Well, what I'm guessing is because they're not cutting Cop and they got rid of Makayev, not resigning him.
Mhm.
It probably makes me lean in the direction that Makayev was the reason all that stuff happened behind the scenes, at
Yeah,
least in the eyes of the UFC. And um, yeah, to your point, I don't think Makayev was really capable of finishing the top guys. Like he didn't really have finishing capability. He wasn't going for
Mhm.
submission stuff like that against those top guys in those couple fights. So I think the UFC is like this guy's causing problems and he's not going to be an entertaining fighter. For most people, he's not a draw. We're going to get rid of him. And it
yeah,
sucks for him that his contract is up. I wonder if his contract wasn't up, if they would have cut him. I don't know what they would have done there.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think Hop will probably move down. I think what they'll probably do is because he's 8. I think they'll move Steve Urseg ahead of him. Like he might stay at
yeah,
8, but I think they might move Steve Urseg to 7 or 6, and then just keep whatever whoever's at 7 right now will move up 1 to 6. Um, yeah, not much else to be said. I think you covered it mostly.
yeah. That was crazy hearing Dana White say, "Well, the PFL is gonna get a great undefeated fighter." I think that was like a crazy statement that he made. He definitely seemed really ticked off in that post fight presser. And I definitely don't think it was smart on behalf of Mokaev because in the octagon, he's like, "I think I deserve a title shot after this win." And then you go backstage and you say, "Yeah, the UFC told me not to fight the way I want to fight because I'm not fun and they're not going to resign me." It's like
Yeah,
way to shoot yourself in the foot numerous times, dude. I mean, he's 23, he's young, he's immature, he's got to learn a little bit. I know he's done the UFC for now, but you know, the skill level in the PFL, he'll probably become honestly, he can probably become a champion in the PFL fairly quickly. If he just kind of fights the way he
they
usually
don't have a
fights, to be honest
division.
with you.
They don't have a
They don't
division
have,
for him. They don't have 125. They don't have 125 or 135.
really.
Yeah,
So what, he's
that's
got
why
to
it's
bulk
not
all the way
happening
up
in the
to
future.
145.
And he can't. He
I
probably
don't
walks
even know
around
where he
145.
have fun in karate combat, bro. I guess that's where he's going.
Yeah,
I don't know what other
submission on the
organization's
ground or
gonna
whatever
take
it
him.
is. Yeah, I
Like,
don't know.
was he gonna go back to like
I
the
just want to make
regional
one last
scene?
point.
That would make no sense to me. The regional scene would make no sense for someone.
I have no clue. I
He's
just
like
want to say
he.
one last thing.
Yep. Go for it.
I just want to say one last thing before we move on. He's the first
Yep.
person I think ever in the UFC to call for a title fight and a new contract in the same sentence. Yeah, I found
Yeah.
that funny. He
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah." They're like, "What do you want to do next?" He was like, "Yeah, I think I should be fighting for the title. I really like the title fight. I hope the UFC re-signs me. You know,
Yeah.
it
That's
has to be the first
ridiculous.
fighter ever to do that.
It's like, yeah, I hope the UFC signs me and gives me a title shot too, dude. We
Yeah,
can all dream a little bit.
honestly, at this point, I think
But
there's not
yeah,
a chance.
yeah. So why don't we jump to another fight that was also on the prelims? Molly McCann loses pretty badly to Bruno Brazil. Don't know what Molly's game plan was in that first round other than to keep running into knees. She just kept rushing forwards and throwing like 3 punches, get kneed and kicked in the stomach, back out, do it
Yeah.
again, get knee in the stomach. It's like, I mean, she showed ultimate toughness in that fight. If you put any fighter catching those body shots the way she was, they're probably going down. Like, she did drop to her knee and she did get dropped because of it. But she took a beating to the body, and she definitely was trying to show some urgency, but she didn't look great. She did not look great. What did you think of her performance?
Listen, yeah, you said it. Ultimate toughness. I don't know many fighters who are going to stay through the fight like that. She still got hit in the stomach in the next round and the round after that
Yep.
too. I was like, why is she not switching to orthodox? I don't know
Yep.
why she stayed in southpaw for as long as she did. Like before she got dropped, she was hurt. Like clearly,
Yep.
right there. As soon as I get hurt, I'm switching to orthodox because you
Yeah.
can't block that. Like you're putting yourself at risk if you're just waiting on the body shot when you're in southpaw there and the other fighters in orthodox. I think her game plan was to just to run in and try to like punch her with overhands and hooks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it would
If I
help
was
her
her, I
get
would have been
past
beating
the longer
legs.
reach. I think
Yeah,
she was trying to
that
use it to
really
get
was the
past it.
issue.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that was the issue. And when she would try to close the distance, she would get kneed in the stomach. It was tough. It really was. She had a couple of moments, but other than that, she was. I thought she was getting the rear naked choke in the third round. I thought
Yeah.
actually she was gonna do it with a minute left. But she fell off the back and it was over
Yeah,
for
she
me.
just put hooks in. I think she had the opportunity to try and put a triangle in. I think that probably would have gotten her just about getting to the finish because she is very strong. So I think she'd probably
Mhm.
win the hand battle trying to get the arm under the chin, her arm under the chin. But she fell off and that sucked. You know, she looked great going into this fight, and her game plan just didn't work out against this fighter. I don't know where she goes from here, to be honest with you. Bruno Brazil is not like some prospect who's killing people left and right. Her last fight, I think, was against Shauna Bannon, who was the first fight of the night, and she doesn't look great on the feet at all. And that's her she's like a boxer, a kickboxer, and she doesn't look great on feet. And then you have Bruno Brazil, who uh, beat her last time, and Bruno Brazil. I mean, she looked so much better this time, I think, than she did in her last fight. Uh, but where does Molly go from here?
I
You
think
know,
you just got to keep her around the same distance. I don't
yeah,
think you move her down.
yeah,
I don't think you move her down, but I don't think you can move her up at all. I think she's still a huge draw in the UK. So you keep her there. I think you keep her for as long as you're fighting in the UK. She has to be on that card because give her fun fights, give her winnable fights.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, she's still entertaining no
and
matter what. She's always a fun
yeah,
fight. She's always a good draw.
yeah,
She's always a great co-main event for a fight night that's over there, or even if they're over here in the U.S. She's still
yeah.
usually pretty fun to watch no matter what. Um, yeah, I don't really have too much to say about that fight. Sucked, but because we were our pick was Molly to win this fight by finish.
I mean, she was like
So
minus 290 or something.
I think there was a point where she was a massive favorite. I think she was like a minus 400 at some point.
Maybe.
And yeah, but oh well, you move on from there. Last one to talk about
Yeah.
that's on the prelims was Nathaniel Wood's performance against Daniel Pineda, and Nathaniel Wood was piecing him up. Oh my goodness, man! And Pineda's eye was destroyed by the end of that fight. Like I was getting to the point where I thought they were actually going to stop it because he kept grabbing at it every time he got punched. And it was big reactions. I mean, they looked at it going into round 3, I think. Between 2 and 3, it happened, I think. And he did dominate most of the third round because of the ground control time. But anytime that fight was on the feet, Nathaniel Wood would catch him with a 1-2. Pineda would try and throw, and Nathaniel Wood would just so quickly just slide over onto a different angle and just like return with a counter. And I think he looked great. I would like to see him fight someone who's definitely, give him another good test. I think it's time for him to give us a good performance on that. What were
Yeah,
your thoughts on that fight? I know you enjoyed that one.
it was nothing short of a clinic. His striking looked outstanding. He was piecing the guy up. I thought he was going to finish him in the first round with that body shot, and he got him to the ground, hit him some big follow ups. But the guy survived, and more power to him. That guy is really tough. He got through it. I think he won the third round on some of the Georgia judges' scorecards or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
because he had top control for a good amount of it. But yeah, and Nathaniel Wood looked great, and I think you got to move him up in the rankings. Maybe give him a ranked opponent next. I don't know, but
yeah,
yeah, he's honestly, out of all of those prelim fights, he looked the best. He looked the most skilled.
yeah. He looked crisp. He looked crisp, man. His hands looked great. And he was really letting them
Yeah.
go.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a pretty good post-fight press conference too. Talking about it. I think you give him someone in the 13 to 15 rank area. Why not? I don't know who's necessarily in those areas right now.
I'll tell you who's in those areas.
Yep.
You got Edson Barboza, you got Dan Ige, and you got Bryce Mitchell. That's your 13 to 15.
Really, Bryce Mitchell's already dropped down that way. Jeez, man.
Because Lerone Murphy and Diego Lopez passed him.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Yeah. I mean, I think Dan Ige should be fighting up, not down. Trying to
Ige is
think,
also going to be in
maybe.
the Sphere, most likely.
I don't
I think
know.
they'll add him to the Sphere card, and I don't
You
think
think
Daniel
so?
Wood's
I
going to be
mean,
ready
Dan
for
said
that.
we were only getting 10, and I think all 10 have been announced after they
Did they
gave
announce
us a
all
big
10?
sphere announcement. Yeah, yeah, they gave us the whole main card, and they had already had before that. They already had like at least 5 or 6 of the fights booked. So everyone was surprised about that because
All right,
Dana
then maybe
White
he's
went and
not on
said
it.
if
I
he
don't
wants
know.
to
Maybe he's
be,
not ready.
I heard, yeah, that I'm thinking he's probably not ready, maybe because after he took that fight, Dan was like, if he wants to be on the sphere, he can do whatever the hell he wants, and
Yeah.
now he got snubbed, and I was seeing other people kind of commenting, being like, did Dana break his promise to Dan Ige? But it seems like they have a good relationship with Dan Ige, so I'm sure him not being on it, or at least as of right now, is mutual. I'm sure there's no problem there. Plus, it's a pretty stacked. Those top 3 fights on that main card are pretty stacked. Maybe give Dan Ige a little bit more of maybe like a main event on a fight night, just maybe not at the Apex.
Mm-hmm.
Because these Apex fights suck. Hopefully, I think that after this year they should be. I think Dan was saying like they're going to be like done using the Apex for fight nights. I mean, I hope. It's so damn quiet in there. But why don't we get into the main card?
Yeah.
First
So
fight there was Arnold Allen gets the unanimous decision over Giga Chikadze, and saw exactly what I thought we were going to see out of Arnold Allen. I mean, the dude just goes in there to bang in the octagon. That dude brings it every single time he steps foot in there. What were your thoughts on the fight?
it was. I thought this was fight of the night. They both brought it all 3 rounds. Both of them were bloodied up. They were landing shots. The end of the first round was a crazy sequence. You got a flying knee, and then you got an up kick. It was a fun fight to watch. It really was. Arnold Allen, his pace really wore on Giga. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Towards the end there, you saw Giga. I mean, his nose was busted up. Like he was bleeding
Oh
out his
yeah.
nose, so maybe that's what it was. Maybe he couldn't breathe correctly, but he was breathing hard. He was slowing down. And Arnold Allen, I thought Giga won the first round, and then after
Yeah.
that, it was all Arnold Allen. And Giga had some good moments, but the kicks started to slow down just because he was so tired. And those kicks, when they're on point and they're fast, like because that's what he is. He's a kickboxer, and he's slowed down. It's hard to beat Arnold Allen when you're not on your point.
Yeah, yeah. Arnold Allen is if he's bringing the pressure and he's pressuring you the whole time. Unless you can get a magical read in between a combination being thrown by him, good luck. There's not much room for error. I mean, he gets hit, but he's okay with that. Like, he pushes that limit. He does not care. Arnold Allen's one of my favorite fighters, especially in that division. I kind of just like wish I get to see him a little more often every now and then. I would like
Yeah,
to see him again around the end of the year, hopefully. Hopefully, he didn't take too much damage in that fight that anything like long or lingering could affect him. But I thought he looked great, and I'm excited to see where he goes next from here because this was a guy who was about to fight for a title in the featherweight division, and then he lost to Max Holloway and kind of derailed it a little bit. And then there was that loss to it was Evloev, right, with the controversial knees and this and that.
yeah.
Yeah, well, Evloev's not gonna be able to
Mm-hmm.
exploit that rule anymore. So run it back. I want to see Arnold Allen land those knees crazy again. But yeah, great fights. Anything else you have to say about that one? Maybe where Giga goes from here.
I think Giga, he's going to stay around the same.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a rematch with Calvin Cater. Or you do him versus Dan Ige. Maybe you give Dan Ige the move up.
Yeah,
Um, I think Arnold Allen should be fighting up, but it's kind of hard. I feel like the only person that makes sense is Yair Rodriguez, and I can't picture seeing how that fight goes.
that might actually be
That's
a
a
pretty fun
really
fight.
close fight for me.
That would be a fun fight.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the first round for this one,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to see Arnold Allen being able to walk through those kind of things from Yair.
Yeah,
Um,
Yair's too crafty.
yeah, but it once again, like Yair, he gassed it out pretty quickly too. So if
Yeah,
Arnold Allen could keep that pace on, and then listen, some people are saying, "Oh, Volkanovski's not fighting Arnold Allen. It's not happening."
Volk's next
He
fight
said he wants
should be
something.
for the title, and I don't really like that Volk's kind of. I mean, I think the only reason Volk's talking the way he is because the way that Ilya is refusing to really fight. I mean, we know that apparently a contract is signed. According to Ilya, there's been no official announcement of a fight or date. Um, but I mean, to kind of like kick Volk to the curb, I think Volk should fight for the title next, in his next fight at least. Like, give Max the fight against Ilya. I think Max will win that fight. Um, but I think that there is a good matchup between Volk and Ilya to run it back as well. So also just because it would be crazy to have to see Volk and Max Holloway fight again, but Max be
Yeah,
holding the
can
belt
you
on the other
imagine
end. That'd be kind of
fourth
crazy.
time?
The featherweight division is just quite the division right now.
Yeah,
It's busy. It has a lot of talent there. Cool things are going to come in that division very soon.
yeah,
There's going to be some good fights coming up. So why don't we jump into the next one? Not a whole ton to say about it other than RoboCop mauled Christian Leroy Duncan for
yeah.
pretty much that
I'm right
entire
with.
fight.
There's nothing else.
He just mauled him.
There's nothing else to be said. RoboCop beat him up for 3 rounds. That's it. He looked good.
Yep. Yeah. Um.
Next fight.
I was gonna say, does RoboCop? How close do you think he is to fighting for a rank? You
A few
still think
fights.
he's got
He's
a
not that
little ways
close. He's
away?
a few fights away. He's at least like
Yeah,
two
I heard on
wins
the
away.
broadcast they were mentioning a little bit like maybe it start he's closer to getting a ranked opponent. But that's middleweight, right? Yeah,
Middleweight. I don't know how he makes middleweight. He's huge.
yeah.
I don't know how he's
That's
not
why I
two
thought it
oh
was
five.
crazy that him and like the build difference between I mean Christian Leroy Duncan's he's a
He's a
muscular
big
guy,
middleweight
but
himself.
he's like kind of on the slimmer side. I'd say he just looks a little bit more athletic. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
RoboCop just looks like a monster. He looks like
Yeah.
RoboCop. But yeah, not too much to say other than great win for him. Next fight was actually a pretty entertaining one. Paddy Pimblett gets the submission on King Green. First time he's been submitted since 2009. I don't know why he shot for a takedown.
That's my only thought on the fight.
It's like, why'd you do
Why did he
that?
shoot for? Because nothing else happened.
Yeah.
There was a couple leg kicks, but that's literally just my thought. I don't know why did he shoot for a takedown. I don't know how it goes if it stays on the feet. It looked like he was having a little bit of a tough time getting the distance, but the fight just started.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Patty's
he
gonna
can
have
make
a number next to his
adjustments.
name, and King Green's not. So
Yeah.
we're gonna see Patty fighting somebody. He called out Hanato Moicano. I like that fight. At first, I thought he was
Mhm.
calling out BSD, and I was like, why would you ever do that?
Yeah,
But
that's a scary.
but
That's
yeah, he called out
no.
Renato Moicano, so that's a fun fight. I think
Where are
that's a
they in
good
the
fight.
rankings? Where's Moicano?
Renato Moicano is 10.
Wow, he's all the way. Oh yeah, because he
If
beat
I had to
Jalen
guess,
Turner.
Patty's going to be higher than 15. He'll probably be like 13 or 14. I don't think he'll be 15. Just because he beat the
Mhm.
15 ranked guy in 3 minutes and didn't get a single. He didn't absorb a single strike to the head.
Really?
Yeah, no,
Wow.
not at all. He had zero head strikes absorbed. There was a couple of leg kicks that King Green landed, and that was it.
Mhm. Okay. Wow. Yeah. We
I want to see
definitely.
him back in there soon.
I picked King Green to win that fight, and I've definitely been a little
So
bit
did
of
I.
a Patty hater over at least the last few fights. He looked great. The hype is real, I guess. He's now in the rankings. It's hard to really deny that now, especially with such a finish. I mean, again, King Green put himself in like the worst position possible. And then it was a little scary. He went out for a little bit there. When that locked in, I'm just happy
A little
that
bit. He was
I'm
out for
happy.
like
I know he was
he was
out
out
for a
for like
minute or
3 or 4
so.
minutes after that.
Yeah. Um, Patty, I applaud Patty for not like snapping his arm in half because we've seen guys who do not care. Like Patty saw. I mean, Bobby's freaking head was like blue. Like if you looked at him, he was
Exactly.
a completely
His
different.
eyes were closed.
Yeah, he was out, and Patty realized, and I'm glad that the ref stepped in at that moment. But I think that on a little too long. The ref was like kind of far away. He was on the far side of Green, like he was
Yeah.
behind like Patty's head and shoulders, I think, which is a really bad place to be when someone's in a triangle like that. So maybe a little bit of a late stoppage. Green's been on the bad end of a few bad stoppages over his last few fights.
I was
That
just
Jalen,
talking about, but
yeah,
right
the
before
Jalen
that
Turner
fight, I
one.
was saying what Turner did to him was nothing short of disrespectful. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah,
Honestly, it wasn't really even Jalen Turner's fault. Obviously, it was the ref's fault. What
yeah,
the ref did to Bobby Green or to King Green was disrespectful.
yeah, yeah. So I'm glad Patty had a little bit of humility to him there, and then they were all cool after the fight. I mean, I'm sure King Green was kind of still out of it. He was out for quite a while there, but good win for Patty. Moicano would probably be fun. Moicano's kind of tall compared to Patty, right? There's a little bit of a difference. There, quite the height difference.
Wait, I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Isn't there quite the height difference between Moicano and Patty, or are they actually pretty close? I feel like
No,
Moicano's
no, no, I
tall.
don't think so. I
Huh.
think they're about the same.
Wow. I don't
Patty's
know
a
how
big
that fight.
lightweight.
Yeah, that fight would probably be pretty cool. They're both really good jiu-jitsu guys, which means we're probably a lot of time that leads to lots of striking.
Yeah.
Uh, and both those guys have chins, so I think that would be a fun fight. I think like Moicano was said on his podcast, like I don't like him and this and that a bunch of times, but Moicano also talks like that about everybody every now and then. But
Yeah.
he's a funny guy. That'd be a cool fight. I'm cool with that one. Um, Co-main event. Tom Aspinall does what Tom Aspinall does. Gets the knockout in a minute flat on Curtis Blades. I know some people felt it was early. I thought it was a little early. I understand that, there was nowhere Curtis Blades was going from there other than probably catch a few more punches to the head. Um, I only say because he like immediately protested, but like Tom said, there's 250 pounds of him sitting on top of Curtis Blades, landing 8 unanswered punches. He was like he wasn't really defending himself in an intelligible way. So fair enough. Yeah, it's like it was inevitable. Like Curtis Blades would have gone out there. Um, I mean, come on,
No,
give Tom the fight against John. I'm fine. I know the Stipe fight with John Jones is to happen, but honestly, just give Tom the opportunity against John first, and then what if he beats John Jones? Then John Jones can go out on a fight and be like, all right, now I'm older now, and I'm going to fight the older who hasn't fought in 3.5 years, Stipe, which I feel like makes a little more sense at that point. He just wants Stipe's name on his resume, and it's just like, it doesn't, no, I don't think anyone's going to rank John Jones any higher than where he's at now as the MMA GOAT for being Stipe. Like, I just don't even think it says anything for his legacy like he thinks it does.
Yeah.
Um, and did you see what Tom said that he should do for the MSG card? That they should do Tom
Yeah.
versus Pereira and then Jones and Stipe, and then the winner of those fights fight each other in the same night. It would be like the old
It's insane.
UFC
Well,
tournament days. It was like the old tournament style, like way, way, way back. I mean, before we were born.
well,
Back
I
in
can
those
tell you right
days.
now, Aspinall and Pereira both are the only two who would fight twice in one night out of those four
Oh
right
yeah.
now at this
Also,
moment.
one thing I didn't notice was that Pereira's only an inch shorter than Tom Aspinall, which like kind of makes me be
Pereira
like,
is
okay,
huge.
because yeah, I thought Tom was taller than he was. That was why. Yeah, Pereira who's like 6'3", 6'4", then Tom's 6'5". So I was like, all right, maybe this is a lot more evenly matched than because like, yeah, we know Tom has the really good wrestling, and he said I would literally just tackle him, to open up the fight. But also, Alex Pereira can throw a flying knee within a half a second, and I don't know how many people survive a flying knee from Alex Pereira, to be honest with you. Even if you're a
Yeah.
heavyweight and you're a big dude, a heavyweight Alex Pereira might be a scary human being. It is a scary human being.
Well,
I mean, you could have
the
nightmares
thing
about
what
that
makes
guy.
it interesting, the thing what makes it interesting to me is Pereira is one of the best in the UFC at like maintaining distance because he keeps
Yeah.
his hands up like that, and he has a wide stance. Now, if you get close to him, um, it could be over. But he keeps such a great distance between these guys at kicking range, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, pretty much once you try to close a distance on him, he makes you pay for it.
Yeah. Well,
Whether
hold on one
that's
second. I just
yep.
hold on one second. I'll be right back. Sorry.
No, you're good. But besides that, guys, yeah, they all looked great. I think Alex Pereira would be a great fight, for Tom, but I do want to see Alex Pereira clear out a little bit more of that light heavyweight division, whether that's Ankalaev next, which he doesn't deserve a title shot, but he's gonna probably get it anyway. And then if Alex beats him up real quick, I mean, maybe we just let Jamal Hill get his rematch that he says is going to go very differently from that first fight. Which, yeah, I'm sure you think that, and you also said you were going to do the same thing the first time. And all he did was make excuses for you kicking him in the cup. Um, you back?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I had to plug my computer in.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just talking about how, as much as I would love to see Tom take on Alex, I think Alex should spend a little, like at least another 2 fights or so clearing out that light heavyweight division. You know,
Well,
uh,
for me, I think Alex is if he beats Ankalaev, the division's already cleared out. That's the problem.
mhm. Well, I'm
Unless
just
like
saying,
Khalil Roundtree gets a
Jamal.
win.
I was saying Jamal Hill wants that rematch really badly, and
But he needs to
maybe
win a
they'll give
fight
it
too, and
to
we don't
him.
know how long he's about to be out for. He just tore
Well,
his
we
like
well
ACL.
I don't even know if that's actually real. I was kind of on the train that other people were saying was he said that to basically not have to be on that same card as Alex Pereira again.
Nah,
That or like
he tweeted saying like it was an MCL and a meniscus tear. I don't think he would do that.
I don't know. Because that guy's talking about trying to get fights, but I don't even know who Jamal Hill's going to fight next. To be honest with you, whether like
Yeah,
I mean maybe by the time he's Khalil Roundtree's suspension's over, so maybe just do
yeah.
Jamal Hill and
Hold on.
Khalil Roundtree
Let's
again.
get back to the end. Let's get back to Aspinall here. Let's get back. Let's get
Yeah.
um
I mean, I just don't know if there's too much. I mean, I don't know how much more there is to say other than he looked great. He did absorb some punches from Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades didn't look horrible. He landed a bunch of times. I even thought there was a moment or two where like Tom actually got hit and he felt that one. I was like, oh man. I was like, we're about to
yeah.
see quite the upset, and I was thinking a little bit about that. But Tom does what Tom does. He's spent less than 4 minutes in the octagon in like his last 4 fights, which is nuts. He's spent like 3.5 minutes in there. A minute for this one, a little more than a minute for the Pavlovich fight. Then before that was before that the Tybura fight where he landed that elbow and knocked him out. That was his return from the knee injury. I
Yeah,
think so.
I,
I'm pretty
I,
sure.
yeah, I'm right with you on there. There's nothing else really to say other than this guy. Yeah, well, first of all, he's the best chin in the heavyweight division. I don't think anyone else in the
Yeah.
division is taking shots from Sergey and Curtis Blades and just standing there like that. Like he's
Yeah.
and I want to go back to your point earlier. I don't think that was an early stoppage at all because
Mhm.
I do understand. I don't think the shot that put Curtis down was the cleanest, and I don't think Curtis was that hurt from it. But you could tell when he was on his knees after the follow up shots, he was a little wobbly. And those
Mhm.
follow up shots were clean, and he was flattening him out. I
Yeah.
just think the shot that put him down wasn't really the greatest, but the follow up shots ended the fight, and he was in a terrible position, and it was going to get worse and worse from there. So I don't think it was an
Yeah.
early stoppage at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm fine with the stoppage. He was
Yeah.
gonna. You give if you gave it 2 more seconds, there would you gave it 30 more seconds, it probably wouldn't have been any different. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd agree with what Tom said also afterwards. Was he's like, what are you gonna do? Let him get completely knocked out? He's like, I don't want that. He's like, why would the ref want that? He's supposed to
Yeah.
for the safety of the fighter, and I agree with that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, Tom's Tom he looked great. Real quick for Curtis Blades, I still think you toss him around there with the top four, top five guys there. You know, why not? Why not throw him back up there? I agree with you. He was like, that wasn't the best. I was hoping for a better performance. He said that he
Yeah.
kind of got a little carried away with. He felt like he was doing well in the striking, so he kind of jumped ahead and abandoned the game plan, and he got clipped with that 1-2. I mean, the two looked like it didn't even really land. The one, it looked like the jabs
It was
went
the left
actually
hand.
hurt him. It was the left
It
jab
was the
that
left hand.
actually I feel like hurt him. And
Yeah.
it's just like from certain angles, like the quickness of Tom's 1-2 is insane. For a heavyweight, it's crazy how fast his hands are. I really do
Mm-hmm.
think that the only way to dethrone him from running that division will be to put him out, like to sleep him. And again, he's taken punches from the hardest hitters in that division. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I
I
mean,
think I think what you do is you give Blades the loser of Gon versus Volkov in
yeah.
September.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what makes sense, and I think
The winner fights Tom,
I
if
hate to
depending on
say it,
Jones.
but if Jones is going to fight in November, I think you do the winner of that fight versus Tom Aspinall. Defending an interim belt twice is insane. Defending it once is crazy. Twice
But
should
the thing
never
is that
happen.
he can fight eight
But I just
times a
don't.
year because he takes no damage. He takes no damage in a
I
fight.
just I don't think Aspinall. I just don't think he's going to want to wait until like next March because that's really what we're looking at right now. Jones is not. If Jones wins, he's
Possibly.
not fighting before. If Jones wins, he's not fighting before March. And if Stipe wins, he's retiring. Stipe is
Yeah.
retiring no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing to bet on that. I just don't. I don't know. I don't see Jones turning around that quickly to fight Aspinall. We might not see Aspinall for like 8 to 10 months, to be honest.
Yeah, that
If he
sucks
sits out for
because
Jones.
Tom's fights end in a minute and then he has to sit out for like 5, 6, 7 months because of it. It's like uh,
Yeah.
the guy really could fight the same pace that Alex Pereira is in a year if there were enough if there were enough top level heavyweights that were available to fight. But
Yeah.
that division really is just so backed up because of the stupid Jones Stipe fight.
I mean, yeah. Listen after the Jones Gon fight, the Stipe fight made sense until Jones got hurt, and now there's like 3 or 4 solid options that should be the main event or the
Yeah,
heavyweight title fight over that. But I think we've said enough on that. Let's get into the main event here. Leon Edwards below Muhammad. Let me go
yeah,
first. I'm gonna have a lot less to say on this than you. Um, I don't have an issue with the way below Muhammad fought with the way some people have. I thought he looked really good actually. He beat Leon literally everywhere besides when Leon had that third round when he had his back and the couple elbows that he landed at the end of the fifth. Other than that, Bilal Muhammad was beating him everywhere. He outstruck him. He out wrestled him. Um, and that brings me to my other point. I was extremely disappointed in Leon. He did not show up to fight at all. He was like asleep in there. It really. He said afterwards, like, yeah, he felt tired all week. But my response to that is, why weren't you getting up earlier and training, months before that? This fight was announced 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Like Tom Aspinall did an interview like 3 months ago. He said, "I'm waking up at 4 a.m. training." Like this
Yeah.
is the stuff you should be doing. He said he felt tired this week because of it. You shouldn't
Hmm.
have started this week getting up early. You should have done this months ago, at least for the
Yeah.
last month. Your body isn't going to match. Like Patty's the only person on this card that I think woke up regular time and did not feel tired in the fight. Um,
Yeah.
Leon, he had no urgency to do anything. And I texted you during the fight. I was like, did he not learn anything from his two fights with
Yeah.
Usman and his fight with Kobe? Because he wasn't fighting the hands of Belal Muhammad at all. He was not
Nope.
fighting the takedowns. He was just
That's what they
putting
were
all of his
talking
weight.
about on the broadcast. Was he just
Yeah, he
refused
was
to fight
putting
the hands?
he was putting all of his weight on the fence and just hoping he could like slip out of there or something. It's not going to happen because Belal Muhammad is a high level wrestler, and
Yeah.
he never unlocks his hands. His hands are always locked, so you're not going to be able to slip out like that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, listen, like his corner was like, "Do you want me to stop the fight? Because you're not here to fight." Like, and
Yeah.
listen, he wasn't even taking damage, so like that's how you know it's to the point. Like your corner saying he's going to stop the fight, and you're taking no damage, which is crazy. Uh, what do I think is next for them? I think Leon versus I like the Leon versus Ian Gary fight that
Hmm.
one of the media members brought to Dana in the press
Yeah.
conference. I think you do that for. I think that fight has to be 5 rounds because
Hmm.
it's a title eliminator. I think it has to be 5 rounds. Fight night main event. You don't put it as a co-main or
It's
something.
just crazy because like that sounds like a pay per view. That sounds like a pay per view fight. Like not a main event pay per view fight, but
Yeah,
it sounds like it would be
yeah,
on a pay per view.
yeah. I mean, it could be. I
Hmm.
want to see it over 5 rounds. I want to see Ian
So do
Gary
I.
over 5 rounds, and I think you do it over a 5 round main event on a fight night. Below Muhammad, I think you do him versus Kamaru Usman next. Um,
Mhm.
Only because one, I think that stylistically is a very good fight. It's interesting to me, and I think you. A lot of people are going to say Shavkat. I want to see Shavkat win one more fight at a high level because his best win right now is Wonder Boy, who's ranked like 6 or 7. And I think the same thing goes for JDM. JDM needs a high end fight. So I think you do JDM for Shavkat as a title eliminator on the same card that you do Bilal versus Usman in like November. I think you could do those two cards on the MSG, those two
Hmm.
fights on the MSG card.
Yeah.
You do Bilal versus Usman as the co-main to Jones Stipe, and then you have Shavkat because Shavkat JDM does not have to be a 5 round fight. That
Yeah.
fight could be a 3 rounder. You're gonna find out your answer within 3 rounds. Um, and yeah, you have it on to maybe even open up that main card. I think that's what you do. What do you think?
Uh yeah, that's one thing I also feel about Shavkat. I'll jump into what I thought about the fights. I just want to trail on this for a second. Is I agree. We haven't seen Shavkat in a year now. I know he was dealing with injuries. A lot of the top guys, they've been booked for fights or they're busy, this and that. I want to see Shavkat against one more high level guy. Um, Shavkat, because there's to me, I think there's still a lot of unknown about Shavkat. Everyone's talking about him right now like he's the most dominating fighter in the organization, and the second he gets a title fight, he's gonna be the reigning champ forever. And I was like, we watched him get beat up a bunch by Jeff Neal. Like he got the finish, but I feel like they're wrong. He every time it looks like he's like, I want to finish this fight, he finishes the fight. Every time he seems like he wants to do it, he does it. Which I do like about him because he's not a loud guy. I mean, he did immediately tweet at Bilal and was like, "Hope you keep your word, and fight me when you're ready." And I was like, "Well,
Well, because that's what
Shavkat's still up. I don't know if
Bilal.
Shavkat. Do you really want to sit out for, if he's now waiting for a title fight? Let's just say after this, does he want to sit out for like a whole year and a half? Like we don't know when Bilal's gonna be ready. At the end of that fight, Leon cut Bilal's face wide open in a few spots with those elbows and shit at the end, which is crazy because like if you look at the two of them at the end of the fight and you didn't watch the fight, you'd be like, damn, Leon beat the brakes off of him because Bilal's face looked worse than Leon's, which is nuts. I don't know if that. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure like Bilal's eye being all weird because of the eye poke stuff might play effect into that, but like he was sliced up, he was cut up, he was bruised a little bit because when Leon did land, because like there were times where like Leon did start throwing some real punches because that was the only time we saw any urgency out of him. And he would like throw like a 1-2, and then I was watching his corner screen, but like land the uppercut. The uppercut's open, and Leon never threw it. I was like, I think that I think that he looked like he got uppercut. He got caught a few uppercuts in round one. And I was like, did Bilal hurt him? Because a few times, because he was doing this weird, like, this thing, he kept guarding it like this, and it was just getting uppercut underneath it. Like, Bilal was just looking at him and throwing underneath it. And I was like, what are you doing? Why is that how you're defending it?
You know what I said in that moment? I was like, put your arms down, you're not Dustin Poirier. I was like, you can't defend like that. That's what I said. Like,
that's also like, that's like a weird boxing thing that some old school boxers used to do. That's why. But I don't know why Leon started ranting, because he's never. I don't think Leon usually doesn't do that, as far as I remember in his previous. But also,
he did it in the third Usman fight just a little bit. He didn't do it in the Colby fight at all.
Well, usually it's more of like a Philly shell looking kind of thing that he'll kind of switch into for just a moment on defense. I've never seen him do that before, I feel, and I don't know why. It wasn't working, and then he continued to do it, and he kept getting punched, whether it was the jab just going straight through the arms or the uppercut. And it's like, bro, you're saying I'm going to knock this guy out. Why am I scared of Bilal? He's slow. He's small, this and that. And then you went in there and looked like you didn't even care to be there. I will say, Dana White ultimately screwed up. You should not have made this card at the time it was if you were going to host it there. If you were going to host it there, start a 1 o'clock early prelim, so at least it's like 10 o'clock. It's later in the night, like a normal time at night for those guys to fight. It's like, you can't. Why'd you even fill the card with a bunch of fighters from there then? You should have filled it with U.S. fighters then, and just been like, we're at the new co-op arena. And then he goes and bashes all the fighters. And I was like, dude, even you look exhausted. You were probably sleeping in the crowd. I don't know. He was cranky because how late it was. That presser was going on at 6 a.m. out here on the East Coast. That's insane. I think that was an ultimate failure on his part. And, I think if these fights happened earlier in the day, we would have seen very different outcomes for most of the fights. That's what I feel would happen.
We're on the East Coast of the United States, so that fight card started at 10 p.m. for us. And I think we could both say I don't mind if it's earlier in the day.
I like them when they're earlier in the day. Yeah.
Make it 10 p.m. UK time, because then what is it here? It's like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. here. Like the Usman-Edwards fight was at that time here, and I watched it. I enjoyed
I think there's I think it's like a 6-hour difference or something like that. It's somewhere between the 4 to 6 hours.
It's a Saturday.
Exactly.
People aren't working for the most part,
I think Dana had other obligations, and that's what pushed it back. I think that's a stupid reason. I don't know. I want to know why he felt that this should have happened. Why it should have been the way it was. It'd be very nice to hear him actually give a reason, other than him just bashing all the fighters he forced to fight at 5 a.m. I wouldn't want to wake up and have to fight at 4 a.m. even if I prepped well. And I also think for Leon's sake is Leon has a great team around him. His brother, his coaches. I actually follow his dietitian who he works with Volk and a bunch of other fighters in the UK and Australia especially, and he helps them cut weight in a healthy way, where they're not dehydrating like crazy and almost killing themselves. And I kind of feel like Leon got comfortable with trusting those guys a little bit too much going into something he's never really had to do before. So it was kind of like a trial and error, and it was definitely on the error side. He said he felt tired all week. Everyone said he looked lethargic in there. He looked terrible. I know Leon says, he would like to go for it.
Yeah, this is the last thing I'm going to say on it. I think he just underestimated Bilal Muhammad. I don't think he thought Bilal had anything to offer him. And honestly, I think even in the cage, he didn't feel danger in any way because he had no urgency to do anything. Even if you're tired, you're in a fist fight. How do you? I'm curious if he was
hoping Bilal would gas out. I'm curious. But Bilal's known for having good
It's not
cardio,
going
which
to
is a
happen.
crazy thing too.
It's
I
not going to
agree.
happen.
I kind of agree. I don't know if I'd say Leon underestimated him. I just think that
I think he did.
Leon. I mean, I do think Bilal was better than Leon, like probably planned for. I think Leon
That's what
was.
I
I
think it
think
is.
Leon was going. I don't think like Leon, was like, I'm not going to train as hard and this and that. I just think Bilal came in and did his thing. Did I love that fight? No. Bilal said Khabib gave me a game plan, and it sure as hell looked like a Khabib game plan. Take him down and hold him there for an entire fight. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, there were definitely exchanges on the feet because every round starts on the feet. And that's where every round started. But I think every single round ended with them on the ground. And I don't know, it sucks. Hopefully
Yeah.
Bilal's active. Like I don't know if Bilal keeps that belt any more than one title defense, to be honest with you. I don't think he's gonna I think he may lose his next fight because I just think Leon looked bad and not
Well,
Bilal
I
looked
think
good, but Leon looked
I'm with
horrible.
you on
That's the
that.
thing is Bilal looked good, Leon looked horrible. And Leon usually
Yeah.
doesn't look
I think
horrible.
I
He
think
because we
Bilal
always expect the
loses.
same out of Leon. You know. What were you saying?
I think Bilal loses to Kamaru Usman. I don't really know much. Like, I don't know about Shavkat in a 5 round fight, so I can't talk on that. But I think if it's Usman, Bilal would probably lose. But it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. It's an interesting fight stylistically.
Yeah. Good wrestling on Usman's side, and Usman's shown that when he tends to have to strike with another wrestler, he's almost always the better striker.
Yeah, but
He
I will
struck
say
well
I was
against
very impressed with
Colby.
Bilal
He
striking.
even
I
struck well
actually,
against Leon. Not gonna lie, and Leon, at least in the first fight, or the fight that Leon took the belt from him. So Kamaru's been out for a
yeah,
tiny bit now after that Hamzat fight. So why not? See if you can book him for the end of the year. I know Leon says he wants to get back in the octagon this year. He sound like he wants the rematch, obviously. Um, but I don't. It didn't sound like Dana White was grooving with that one. Seems like he was like, nah, we're gonna move on from that. And I mean, I do think Leon maybe his next fight may not be again for that belt. But Leon has been a great fighter. There's so many other fighters that were decision merchants, but no one really, was on them about it like they are with Leon and Bilal. Leon was active. He was like everyone talks like, oh, he's never active. It's like he's still fighting twice a year. You have guys who don't fight for an entire year all the time, and you're not saying nothing. I understand he's a champ, but the only champs that defend their belt more than twice a year is Alex Pereira and like Adesanya, and then Volk would also most of the
well,
time. Volk
yeah.
usually twice a year.
Only problem I have with the people who say Leon is a decision merchant are the same people
Yeah,
who wanted Bilal to win, and Bilal is way
yeah,
more of a decision merchant. No disrespect to Bilal, but he had way more decisions than Leon. Because, like,
yeah.
in my opinion, I don't see Bilal finishing these top level fighters. He's gonna beat them with his skills. He's not gonna beat them by decision. Like, he doesn't have a lot of power in his hands, and he has no submission threat, which I was surprised with because he's so good on the ground. He has no
Mhm.
submission threat. So I
Also,
listen. I think Leon's a really good fighter. He just didn't have aggression to the point where he would get finishes. Yeah, I don't think his next fight. Dana said they're working on something already. In my mind, it has to be Kamaru. I don't think, unless it's
yeah.
Shavkat, I don't think they would really plan that in advance because he's hurt.
Well, I'm gonna listen to the new episode of Pound for Pound when Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo put that out because I kind of just usually try to listen to that for to hear some news about maybe those two getting their next fights and stuff like that. Because personally, I think a lot of their takes are like some of the worst takes I've ever heard come out of people's mouths. I don't think anyone like expects any more or less from Henry Cejudo because he kind of I think does it on purpose most of the time. Sometimes Kamaru says some outrageous stuff. I think
I
Kamaru
will
also
say,
thought that Leon was going to win this fight. I'm not going to lie. I think Kamaru thought that
I will
Leon was
say,
going to get it done.
out of all the professional fighters who picked this fight, Henry Cejudo is the only one who said Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah, of course he did. He'll always side with the wrestler. I think. Cejudo will almost always side with the wrestler in every fight. But I think
Yeah,
Cejudo. I also think Cejudo was saying that because he also thinks that Bilal trains with Khabib all the time, which isn't true. He's not always with Khabib. And I think Cejudo thinks that. So that's also why he said that. But yeah, Cejudo, I think, was correct on that one. But
yeah.
yeah. Um, I'd like to see a fight ran back maybe between those two at some point on a schedule that isn't, completely disadvantaging one fighter. Bilal's from the U.S. He's from Chicago. He was in enemy territory, but had the advantage in the time zone because he didn't have to really adjust his sleep. He just had to. It's just that you were waking up at night pretty much, but your sleep schedule
Yeah,
just stayed consistent. Um, I Last thing I would say about the whole sleep issue is like honestly, if I was one of those UK fighters, fly to across to the East Coast and train on the East Coast for for like a week or two to adjust to the time. Not your whole camp, some of the camp.
yeah,
Then fly over, a few days before for the media day stuff and all this and that, and just try and stay on that schedule.
hmm
It would probably be a lot easier with Suck having to fly over here. Yeah. But the East Coast is a good time for most of the places you could be. And there's good gyms. So I think we're good on recapping 304 for the most part. Check out, we're going to put out another episode, hopefully like later in the week where, we talk about, this upcoming weekend, we actually have a really good fight card. We have that Abu Dhabi card on August 3rd, headlined by Umar Nurmagomedov and Corey Sandhagen.
yep.
I'm very excited for this fight. We won't really talk about it right now, but I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about it. So we'll get to that card later this week. Thanks for listening, guys. We will be on YouTube from now on, as well as all of our other platforms. So thanks for listening, guys.